Hi, in this Groove workshop, we'll look at the trend gadget. I built this trend earlier. It has only 2 pins, although you can have up to 4 pins per trend. Notice that the trend gadget is buffering data over the time period the trend is configured for. So if you go to a different Groove page and then click back on this page, the trend gadget will still have all the data loaded and ready to view. Notice also that if I click on these individual pins, I can turn them on and off to see just one at a time. There are 2 different axes that I can have, each with different units of data. In this case, I have the heat output over here on the left in pink, and the air temperature, which is controlled by the heater, over here on the right in black. Let's take a deeper look and build one of our own. I'll switch to Groove Build. Here I'm using Groove Server for Windows, the free trial. Now, I have already added this other gadget, a slider, to control the heater output. That's part of the Learning Center on my desk. To add a new trend, all I have to do is scroll down here to the bottom to find the trend gadget, and just drag and drop it like the other gadgets. Maybe I'll make this a little bigger here. Now notice here there are a few properties I'll want to change right away, like adding temperature control for the overall title. Then, as with other gadgets, I can adjust a few things, like making the text look the way I want. Here is where we set the period for the trend. For the purpose of this demo, I want the smallest possible period, so we can see lots of change. But first notice if I try to set it for 8 days, the data entry box turns red because 7 days is the max. I'll change it to 1 minute. Here's the update interval, which really means how fast Groove pulls the data from the tag. I'll set that as the smallest amount too, so we can see quick 1-second updates. Then down here at the bottom, notice there's this left axis and right axis. For my heater, that's always going to be from 0 to 100, so I set the value limits as manual. For the right axis, I'm going to let that be automatic and call it temperature. Here's a trick. If you hold down Alt and type 248 on a num-locked keypad, it will give you the degrees symbol. Degrees Fahrenheit for me. Now let's go ahead and configure our data sources. This is where I can add up to 4 pens. For my first tag, I'm going to select that same heater, already connected to the slider. And I'm going to go down here to my analog output points, select that heater, and just click Update Gadget. Now for my heater to match the other gadget that is already there, I'm going to make this red and also call it heater, and that's going to go with my left axis, and I'm going to leave the default of line. Let's add fill so you can see what that looks like. For my second pen, I'm going to select the temperature, which is right here, again coming from my Learning Center. I'm going to leave the black for the color pen, and I'm going to call this temperature. Again, I'm holding down Alt and pressing 248 on my keypad. I have degrees F, and that's going to go with the right axis over here, where I already have it configured for temperature. And I'm not going to fill this one so we can see what the unfilled looks like too. I could also choose smooth line if I wanted to automatically smooth out the line so it's less jaggedy. Let's click Done and see what this looks like. When I do a File, Save All and switch to Groove View, there's a couple of things to notice. Here on the left, I'd selected 0 to 100 and manual for the value limits to fix the range in that vicinity. While on the right, I'd selected automatic limits based on that changing temperature. Not a lot of variation yet, so that range is small. But if I were to crank up the heat here, notice first of all, because I added that heater pen first, that filled shape is not covering up my temperature line. The Z order depends on the order which you added each pen. But if I wanted to just look at one pen without the other, I can do that here by clicking on these labels. And notice my trend, as I would expect, is showing an increasing temperature because of the heat. Also, my axis is automatically adjusting here since I selected automatic for the value limits. If I slowly lower the heater output, I can see the change on the trend get updated once a second since that's what I selected for my update interval. Like all our other gadgets, notice that it scales nicely. So if you want to put it on a different device like a big screen TV, or maybe you just get a bigger monitor, you don't have to completely rebuild this screen. So that's pretty awesome. Thanks for watching. Find more videos on groov.com.